Hi everyone, welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. Another opposition preview. This time I'm joined by Dave from B Sossed. Thank you, Dave, for coming on the channel.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me on, mate.
Yeah, of course. Brentford 11th in the table at the minute, making a decent go of it this season. What have been your thoughts on the season so far from a Brentford perspective?
Well, it's been a tale of like home versus away so far. To be fair, I mean, we're still unbeaten at the G-Tech, and we still lost every single game away from it. But we have had a lot of toughies, and then a sting in the tail against Fulham last time out. I mean, let's be honest. Every game at this level always is tough. So it's not as if we're sort of expecting an easy ride anywhere in this division. So coming up to Goodison on Saturday is another one. You're going to be up for this. You're going to see this as a really good opportunity to get 3 points. But yeah, so far so good. I think we're ahead of where we would probably have thought we might have been. At this stage, we look safe. We look good. We look like we're going to get better. So, yeah, so far so good, mate.
Yeah, it can be a bit frustrating, can't it? I mean, the Premier League at the moment. I mean, it really puts it into perspective, I think, when I speak to these opposition fans every week. I haven't spoke to someone from, a team fighting in the sort of top 4 or top 6 since the start of the season when we played Tottenham, second game of the year. So we've had some what people would call easy games, but we still seem to be making it really, really hard for ourselves. But your last game was a 3-2 win over Bournemouth, who are doing pretty well in the league this season. Talk me a bit through that one.
Yeah, it was a really, really good victory, to be honest. Bournemouth were excellent. Some of their passing football was really, really impressive. It's no wonder that they'd beaten Man City and Arsenal, and the pessimist in me thought our unbeaten run would come to an end, but the spirit that we showed and the chances we created. Yeah, I think we just about edged it in deserving the points. So yeah, it was they were probably the best team we played this season, and to come out of that with maximum points was really kind of ballsy, I think. And yeah, it showed that we're able to go toe to toe with some of the best. And I know the rest of the division, including yourselves, probably thinking, "Oh, it's Bournemouth," but we all know now that they're a good team. They've got some incredible players, and yeah, the way they sprayed it around, they're going to be right up there. I think they're every bit as good and every bit as impressive as Brighton have been in the last couple of years. So fair play Bournemouth, but fair play us for digging deep and just not we just don't give up. We just we don't roll over really. So yeah, it's going to be a good game up at your place.
That's something that I've really taken when I have watched Brentford this season, and particularly in that Ipswich game at the G-Tech a few weeks ago. The Brentford team at the moment, although of course you had that result against Fulham, which wasn't very good. The never say die attitude from the Brentford team is something that I think is really good this season, and it seems to me that the players are all playing for each other and playing for the manager. And it seems that this season there is a lot of team spirit going on in that Brentford team. And a lot of that will be down to the manager, Thomas Frank. Tell me a bit about him, because he's made his name now as quite a solid Premier League manager. And I think a lot of other clubs rate him very highly. But what's the general thought on him as a Brentford fan?
Well, he's pivotal. He's central to the Brentford Revolution, as I call it. I wrote a book called Brentford Revolution, which is kind of course the 10 or 15 years now really since Brentford's rise from the bottom of the bottom tier to being top on the first day of that Arsenal game season. But Thomas Frank he's the one that kind of has made us as adaptable as we are. We can play football. We can park the bus. This season, he's gone a bit more, I wouldn't say gung-ho, but he's gone attack-minded. We're playing, 4 at the back instead of the 5 that where we go to the tough games and we we have banks of defenders and midfielders, and we make it tough. We're really going toe to toe with the best. We frighten the life out of Man City. We've acquitted ourselves pretty well. So yeah, Thomas is a pragmatist as well, though, and I think there's a lot of other teams are noticing that he's got his principles, but he's able to adapt, and I think that's been part of our survival, his attitude, especially when you realise the last 2 seasons, this season included, we've been like really hamstrung with injuries, like really bad ones, and then obviously the absence of Ivan Toney with his betting incidents, and then his want-away attitude. It's been hard for him. We haven't got fullbacks. We've got our number one and on both sides out. With our replacement for Ivan Toney, he got Crocs before the season started. And we've had injuries, like really important ones throughout, and then obviously the loss of David Raya last year as well. It's a surprise that we've done as good as we have the last 2 years. To survive last year, I think, was almost a minor miracle at times. And so the way that he molds players into literally doing the job that they've been sent out to do, and to kick on in some instances. There's still some square pegs in round holes, and to get those results with that in mind, he has to take a bow, and yeah, he's a proper star at Brentford for sure.
Yeah, and from a pragmatic, popular manager to one that isn't really impressing the supporters at the moment, Sean Dyche at Everton seems to be running out of ideas a little bit every single week now, and dropped a lot of points where we shouldn't have. What have been your thoughts on Everton so far this season, and on Sean Dyche?
Well, I'll be honest with you. From an outsider looking in, it looks like an absolute car crash up there. It looks like you've been trying to get relegated the last couple of years, and it looks like you might be successful this season. I don't take any pleasure out of other teams losing, but it's kind of like, it's not a surprise anymore. When we've been up, the atmosphere in the stadium and the fans, and the word deserve is, no one deserves anything, but it's clearly you're set up as you are a big club, and it's a big atmosphere, and the fans are desperate for some kind of success, and it's got to be really galling, and it's got to be painful. Especially the start of this season as well, being in winning positions and managing to lose and giving away 2-goal leads and all that kind of stuff. It's got to be painful. But I'll be honest with you, we look at Everton as one of those teams that will finish below us. So we think we're that's one, and then there's the 2 others that are probably ones that are come up. So there's 3. So we're probably going to be safe. I'm not saying you're going to go down. I think you're going to be too good for that. You will pick up enough points, but it looks like Groundhog Day all over again. So yeah, that's the way, until you get your new stadium, until the new ownership happens. It looks like you stand every chance of starting life in your new stadium outside the top flight.
Yeah, and is there anyone in the Everton team at the minute who you think is a real danger man for Everton? Because, and I say this every time, a lot of the opposition fans talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but he's probably been in the worst form out of the whole squad at the moment. So, is there anyone who you think for Everton could be the danger man against Brentford this weekend?
I mean, I won't lie and say I'm an expert on Everton's team, but Calvert-Lewin is always one that we are not scared of as such. It depends if he's injured or not, really, doesn't it? But he was one that we were not linked with, but there was when we were expecting to get big money for Ivan Toney, there was talk about us being in for him, but whether that was any serious, I doubt there was any seriousness in that at all. He wouldn't come to us, but and I look at you and this potency for sure. You create a lot of chances, and it looks like you just don't take enough of them. Especially in those first few weeks. I think you've been knocking on the door, and you just contrive to screw up when it looks like it's easier to score. Someone misses, or there's a VAR, or there's something. It seems like you're jinxed at times. But I'm sure, I'm wary of coming up there, because I think if you can keep the crowd quiet, you stand a chance. You're doing the right thing. So, I've got no names for you as such, but I'm not looking at coming up there as it's going to be easy. It's going to be a tough one for us.
Yeah, and obviously, as you said, you're not an expert on Everton, but you are an expert on Brentford. Who do we need to look out for, and what do you think will be the likely lineup for Brentford this weekend?
I don't see a lot of changes. I think we'll go fairly similar to where we set up against Bournemouth last time out. I think Wisa and Mbumo will be up top. Kevin Schade is kind of there's a bit of fight for the number 9 shirt until Thiago is ready. But there might be a surprise. He's close, but he's not played. He's not played a competitive game at all this season. So I think to expect him to go straight into the starting 11 is going to be tough. But I think the only real it depends who comes back from international duty as well. To be honest with you, I'm not hearing there's any injuries, so I think it'll be a pretty unchanged team. I'm sure.
And obviously, score predictions, they're the ones that really count and put the points on the board. Can you see yourself coming to Goodison in what probably is your final game at Goodison Park and getting a win this weekend?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I take a point right now, to be honest. We've the last couple of years we've played okay, and we've got nothing. The first season we came up, we won there in that kind of real ding dong of a match. I think it's probably going to be a draw, but we're due an away win, and there's a good chance if we carry on creating as many quality chances as we do, and we create in every game we play, bar one or two. We didn't create much against Fulham, but our XG stats are excellent. It's just whether Wisa and Mbumo they click. I can see us scoring a penalty. I think we're tricky around the area. It's going to be a real end-to-end game. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and obviously this probably is going to be Brentford's last trip to Goodison Park. Of course, you're pretty qualified to talk about this. Brentford, of course, moved from Griffin Park to the GTEC Community Stadium. Some final words on Goodison Park and the sort of memories that you have. Not everyone has been there. I've certainly been there a lot of times, and I've got my own memories. But it's nice to hear what other fans think about Goodison Park, because I think while other fans on the outside can be a bit skeptical of clubs moving to new stadiums, I think the way our club has done it and the way we're going about it, the way it's being built has been really promising. But what's your opinion on it?
Well, Goodison's just a real traditional, proud old stadium, and it's sad to see the end of it. It's so much history wrapped up in it, and you're right. We're pretty well equipped to kind of talk about what it's like to move stadium, and the plus side, for you guys is it looks like you'll get a proper chance to say goodbye. We never did that because we moved out during lockdown and COVID happened in our final season at Griffin Park. The final game that fans were allowed into was a great game. We won. We thrashed Sheffield Wednesday, and it was at the time where lockdown looked inevitable. There was a few of us that kind of said this could be the last game. When the fixtures started, they was played behind closed doors, and the final game was a playoff match against Swansea, and we got through to a Wembley final that we lost. And then the following season, we opened a new stadium, pretty much behind closed doors as well. And it was only the first season in the top flight, so we got promoted. The last couple of games we were allowed into the GTEC. So it was just odd. So it was sad. There's so many memories and there's so many great days and so many awful days, and your first game there with your dad, and it's just wrapped up in, it's steeped in emotions, and it's gonna be awful for you. But we don't really, because of us being in the top flight and creating all this new history, all this fresh positive history. We've not had a chance or a need to look back in anger, or look back in any sort of like teary-eyed nostalgic way, not yet, because it's so exciting and new and everything. But we do miss the old girl still. When the floodlights came down, it was just awful. It was just like, part of you was being cut off. So some Everton fans that have been going since just after the war, or some cases probably still during the war. There's some around probably. It's going to be an end of a proper era. So make the most of it while you're there.
Yeah, of course, with Brentford, of course, with obviously making all the new history now, and now I think the next crop of Brentford supporters will grow up and knowing the GTAC is something a bit different. It'll be nice for you, for supporters who saw Griffin Park, to have that memory and pass it on. I think for Evertonians, it's a case of the time has come now to look forward to the future. But before we move on to our lineup quiz this week, of course, make sure, as we do every week, players who've played for both Brentford and Everton, get them down in the comment section below, and I'll read them out at the end of the episode. So, Dave, 5th of February 2022, you'll remember someone who's been in the news a little bit this week, Frank Lampard, of course, with the Coventry job. It was his first game as manager of Everton, a 4-1 win in the FA Cup 4th round at Goodison Park. Only 2-3 years ago, but squads changed a lot in that time. But there's a couple of players still playing for Brentford at that point who were who are still playing now. But of course, the team under Thomas Frank is constantly evolving and constantly changing. Usually people can get a fair few. This is a fairly recent one, but how many can you get? 5th of February 2022.
Well, I've got to name the whole team.
See how many you can name. If obviously I'm not sure how much of these would have been rotation players, but there's a couple of them who are.
All right, well, a lot of this is going to be proper guesswork. All right, so 2022, I would say in goal we probably flipped it. Was Strakosha? Did he play in goal, or was it Raya?
Strakosha wasn't. You've gone the wrong
David
way.
Raya then.
Yeah, so Raya would have been playing then. I actually thought that he'd moved to Arsenal by then. I thought he'd been at Arsenal a lot longer than he has, but no, he was still playing for
beginning of
Brentford.
last season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God, this is going to be a tough one. So, left back, I'm going to go Rico Henry.
Yeah, Rico Henry was playing in that game.
God,
and then the two centre backs.
He's been out injured.
Yeah,
three
centre backs are fairly first choice, I think, at the time.
Pinnock.
Not Pinnock. Maybe these two would have been the other ones, but
Ben
I think both have left now.
Oh, I don't know. But Mads Rodsleff on the right, was he?
Yeah.
Big game Mads. He's just got his first cap for Denmark this week, so fair play to him.
There's a couple more Danes in there as well. There's 3 more Danes if you can get them.
What, in the whole team?
Yeah, in the starting 11, yeah.
Norgard and Jensen.
Mm-hmm.
And probably Damsgaard.
No, you mentioned that you used to play a 5 at the back. Now you play a 4 at the back. So in this game we were playing 5. There's one more central defender from Denmark.
Oh,
I think, to be fair, I don't know this name.
Oh, Zanka.
No, it's Mads Bech Sorensen.
Mads Bech Sorensen, big guy. Yeah.
And then the other two, you've got a Swede and a Norwegian as well.
Aya?
Yeah, Aya was one of them. The other one, quite a famous Championship centre back.
Oh,
Not sure
Pontus
if
Janssen.
yeah, not
Is he
sure if
still
he
there?
ever really was able to make the step up to the Premier League, Pontus Jansson, but really impressed whenever I watched him for Leeds in
Yeah,
the
no,
Championship.
he was a big part in us getting promoted. He brought that sort of that spine and the organisation and just that bit of nous that we needed. Yeah, he became a legend. He wasn't there long, but he's a proper legend at Brentford. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So up
And
front, Wisa,
no, it wasn't Buisa. There was one, and the goal scorer actually up front.
did Tony play?
Yeah, Tony
He did.
played. He scored a penalty in the 54th minute.
Okay.
And then your last two, you've actually made it to the last two of the quiz. Dave, you've got someone who played just behind, and then you've got someone who's still playing. I'm not sure if the attacking midfielder's playing, but I know the centre midfielder's first choice now for Brentford.
Ericsson play? No.
No.
I don't
I think
know.
Eriksen's season would have been after this, just after.
Frank Onyeka, did he play?
Frank Onyeka was on the bench.
Yeah.
You've
Sergi
got
Canos?
actually former Liverpool player, I think.
Sergi Canos, did he play?
Yeah, Sergi Canos started just behind. And then at
And Brian
centre mid,
Mbumo? Oh, no.
not Brian Mbumo. More of a
Okay.
deep lying midfielder. He's someone who Thomas Frank probably would have told never to shoot from outside the box in this game and might have paid for it.
I don't know. Go on.
Vitaly Janelt.
Oh, Vitali, now. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a cracking goal he scored, to be fair, against Fulham. I mean, if any
Yeah.
goal is capable of winning a game, it was that one, but you got very unlucky in that one. Oh, I tell you what, I did feel for you at Craven Cottage the other week because
Yeah, it's awful.
to be honest, I could relate to it so much.
Yeah, there
On
was
the
a
bench, you actually
very
had,
Everton sting in the tail, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, it was something that we do, to be honest. There's one player who I can really identify on the bench, and obviously, I hope you've got them in the comment section down below. Players who played for Brentford and Everton. Former Everton goalkeeper who was on the bench, the reserve goalkeeper for Brentford. Can you name that? Another Dane, funny enough.
God, I sound like I've never been to Brentford. No, my mind's blank, mate. Sorry.
It was Jonas Lossell. Jonas Lossell who
Oh
played.
God, yeah. I thought I would never even remember that we had him. Do you know what I mean? He's like one of them players that just comes and gone. Yeah.
Do you know what? Funny enough, it might have been this season, and I think we loaned him out to you. But he mustn't have been cup tied because he was on the bench. But I think some Evertonians will be able to answer it. 21-22, of course, the famous year where we stayed up. Was that the Jonas Lossell season? Because he sort of bounced around both clubs, didn't he? Lossell between Brentford and Everton, but that was the team in the 4-1 win. Bloody, I tied that this weekend, I tell you that now. And then just to finish off, actually, I'll read the players out. So players you could have had Jonas Lossell, Jake Bidwell, Dave.
Yeah.
Bringing up any memories? Former Everton. I think he played in Europe for Everton, actually. James Tarkovsky, one that I didn't know until recently, actually played for Brentford as well. It's going to be going back there.
Obviously your favourite Neil Maupay.
Oh, yeah. He was the last one, and I left until last on purpose. Leandro Rodriguez only ever played one game, I think, for Everton. Come off the bench in a game against Dagenham and Redbridge. That's my little bit of Everton trivia. Conor McAleny, Adam Forshaw, Kenny Sansom, all shared between the two clubs. And then finally, just to finish off, Dave, I'm sure you're aware of the Mount Rushmore concept. Your four big faces to go on the Mount Rushmore of Brentford. Who, in your opinion, are the four most important names in Brentford history?
Harry Curtis, who's great first Brentford manager that took us from obscurity to the top flight from 1926 up until just after the war. Thomas Frank, I think, has to be on there. Matthew Benham, our owner, he has to be on there. And I know you're probably thinking, they should all be players. Last but not least, the fourth. Is it four? Is it four on there?
Yeah, four.
I'm probably gonna give that to. That's a real toughie. That's a real toughie.
It is tough, isn't it?
Part of me is gonna say Ivan Toney because he scored the goals that got us up and kept us up. Part of me is going to say Pontus because he was the captain that took us up. Now I'll give it to Ivan because it ended in a sour note, but he's the most prolific goal scorer in our top flight.
How refreshing to hear the current manager being praised like that.
Yeah, I think credit where credit's due. I think he's been central to that. I'm not sure another head coach, another manager would have got us up. Especially after failing in the previous year's playoff. And I think he's just really focused, and he can shrug it off. He's got proper belief. Long may he reign.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Dave. Tell me where we can find all of your stuff and also your book as well. Sounds very interesting.
Yep. We're at Besotted, BEESOTTED on X and on Facebook. Besotted.com is the website. If the Brentford Revolution is available on Amazon and through legendspublishing.net. And I did the Big Book of Griffin Park as well, which is a big 400-page coffee table book about Griffin Park from the very beginning to the very end. It's a gorgeous, great big thing. So yeah, head over to legendspublishing.net. We've just published Martin Dobson's biography as well. So yeah, there's a few books on there that Toffees fans might like as well. If they're not interested in Brentford, there's Everton books on there as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, if you're into your vintage football and your football history, definitely sounds like one for you. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Dave. Obviously, make sure you like and subscribe to the Toffee Blues. Comment down below your score prediction for this weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.